My name's Kristin and I'm an alcoholic. I'm 29 years old. I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. My upbringing was normal. I mean, we had like the typical like family arguments, but everyone was really close. There wasn't anything in my childhood or my teenage years that would have ever made me think that I was going to be an alcoholic. It wasn't in my cards at that point. I guess I really started drinking after I graduated college. During college, I mean, I drank some, but I like cared more about school, so it wasn't anything that ever got in the way of school or family life or anything like that. And after I graduated, I started working food and bev. I started drinking every night after work, and it was just kind of like the normal thing that people do. You know, you get off work after a long shift, you have a couple of drinks, you call it a day, and then you go home, and then it's like a repeat the next day. I started grad school probably like a year and a half afterwards, and at that point I was drinking like more and more every night. I was still making it to family get-togethers, but I think at that point my mom had like mentioned some things about how much I was drinking. I guess it was not too long after college. I had gotten off work, I had gone downtown, I totaled a car, and I should have died in that car accident. And instead, I mean, I got some stitches, and that was the first time that any doctors had said anything to me about drinking. They asked me if I was an alcoholic, and I was just like, no. You know, I brushed it off and was like, I worked a long day, you know, that type of thing. By the time I got into grad school, I was drinking more and more every night. The days that I didn't have class, I started drinking like earlier in the day. I didn't finish grad school. I ended up dropping out because I just couldn't do both. I couldn't do the partying. And at this point, I had like started doing drugs too. I started doing cocaine. I started taking Adderall like every day, just ridiculous amounts of both of those. And then the next day I would wake up and I would, go to class that afternoon, get off and do the same thing. It was just like a repeat. And I guess all that like caught up to me. And I don't know, I was going to school for psychology, and so it was just, I couldn't do that and keep up the lifestyle and like try and go into this field helping people when I at that point realized, I was drinking way too much. So I dropped out of grad school. I don't know how long it was, but it really wasn't that long before I ended up in the hospital from drinking. I guess it was I think it was the end of 2016. I ended up in the hospital, and they referred me to a GI doctor. And they had told me I had slightly fatty, benign liver tissue. And so they told me, like, you have to stop drinking. This is only going to get worse. You're going to end up dying from this. And, like, I was just mad. I was like, these people are crazy. I'm fine, So I guess I cut back a little bit in my mind, but I really didn't. So I went back, and they said my levels had dropped. So instead of like being thankful and grateful for that, I took that as like, okay, well, I can go drink again. So that's what I did. At this point, I was drinking like earlier on in the day, pretty much every day, just a little bit earlier. It wasn't just at nighttime anymore. So I don't know how long it was. It was only a couple months, but I ended up back in the hospital with pancreatitis from drinking. And so it was the same doctor, and she was like, what are you doing? I don't know, I think I was like 26 at this point, maybe 27. And she asked me if I was done drinking, and I was like, no. And so I like quit for a little bit, and then I ended up drinking again, and it got worse. It gets worse every single time. And I ended up having upper respiratory failure from drinking, ended up in the hospital, and that's how I ended up in my first rehab. So I really thought I was done that time. I almost died a second time from drinking, and I don't know, for normal people that would be enough for you to like change your ways, but for me it was literally just a couple months before I was like doing the drugs again, then I was drinking again, which is how I ended up here at the Liberty Ranch. My mom luckily found this place online. I wasn't too thrilled about like having to go like so far away from home, but it's changed everything in my life. I came here, I committed to graduate after like two or 3 months. because I knew that I needed to do everything different, I guess, than I did the first time. The first time after rehab, I went home, hung out with the same people, did the same thing. I wasn't willing to change anything in my life whatsoever. This go around, I knew that if I go back out, like, I know I'm gonna die. So yeah, I committed to graduate, and it's been like life changing. I had ended up getting kicked out before I got here. All those like family ties and like my close knit family, like, they were not done with me, but if I hadn't agreed to come, like, I wouldn't have had anywhere to stay. All the people that I used to be friends with, I like cut ties with them. I was just doing what I wanted to do, and I didn't really care. And now I have those people back in my life. I mean, I can have my nephews back in my life. My sister just had her first baby, and I get to be her godmother. And my sister had told me if I didn't get help, I would not be in her life. I have a strong relationship with my cousins and my family again, and I don't know, this place has changed me a lot. I now have over a year of sobriety, just barely. I just graduated the program. I'm working here at the ranch. I don't know, things are like on the up and up now, and I know that if I hadn't found this place and I hadn't committed to graduate, like, I would not be where I'm at today. Like, I know if I had left after 2 or 3 months, I know that I would have been drinking again. I would have gone back and done the same thing I did the first time. And I don't know, it's really changed my life, and it's been the best thing that's happened to me. I have a great support group here. I've made some of like the best friends that I could have. So.